Richard, welcome.
Hello there.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
And it's lovely to see you in usually we see you in a sort of a flamboyant dress and, this is a very
I
sort of...
dressed down today.
Yeah.
A couple of meetings, so I thought I'd dress down.
Okay, are you ready for these questions?
I am.
So the first one, stage presence. Who or what has been your greatest influence in the performing arts?
Who or what has been my greatest influence? My first job was in a musical called Barnum, at the Opera House in Manchester in 1983-84, and then it moved to the Victoria Palace in London. There was 24 of us in the cast, and I think about 15 of us. It was relatively a new job, first job for all of us. At the head of the cast was a guy called Michael Crawford, who I sort of knew of. I'd seen him in a couple of musicals. I'd seen him on Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. But during the over 2 years we were with that show, I have never, ever failed to be amazed by that guy, even to this day. He worked 100% every single night. He was amazing, absolutely amazing, and the whole cast, because he was the lead, the whole cast were behind him. He was a funny man. He was a beautiful man to be with. He was talented, and every night the audience absolutely loved him. And he was an inspiration right from the start. I still see people from that show. We still have get-togethers years and years and years later. And he was a total inspiration for the rest of my career, and I will always go by his values. I will always go by his ethos, and his work ethic was incredible, and I shall always be in admiration of the man. And so I think he was my first and strongest influence that I've ever had in the business.
And obviously with the Theatre Royal fans, they probably know you most for your Dame roles. Would you say that there was anyone that inspired you in that kind of role?
Dame-wise, I always admired the big dames that I loved as a kid. I saw George Lacey, one of the old dames. I saw him very, very later on in his career. I saw Les Dawson, who was a fantastic dame. He really, really was. I've seen Chris Biggins a few times. But I suppose the dames that I most admired were the blokes in dresses. The dress was a funny costume, and they're still blokes. They're still them. Which I feel that I hope that that's the sort of dame that I portray, is that it is a comedy character. There are places for the more sort of draggy dames. I think probably Cinderella is one with the Ugly Sisters, but then you can go in different directions for that. So, but I think the bloke in the frock, I think Jack Tripp was my biggest influence as a dame. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question. All the world's a stage. What has been your favourite place to perform?
My favourite place to perform? Obviously, I have to say the Theatre Royal in Norwich.
Thank you very much.
I actually appeared here before I did panto here. I did a couple of music halls with Roy Hudd. But panto here, it's a wonderful theatre. It is a wonderful theatre to play because it's a huge auditorium. It's a very unusual auditorium because half are up and half are down. But it still feels very intimate, and the audience are right in front of you, and it's a wonderful theatre to play. I've played bigger venues. I've played much smaller venues, but this is a nice size. It's and I suppose I've played this theatre more than any other theatre. So it's like coming home, I suppose. It's a lovely theatre, and backstage is great too. The dressing rooms are very comfy,
and you spend plenty of time there as well.
Lovely.
And I was going to ask you about, obviously, with your roles have so much audience interaction.
Yeah.
What is that like in the Theatre Royal when you're playing to the front, you're playing to the back? Does that have any challenges? Or?
No, it's absolutely great. You can hear that the acoustics in this place are great, not only from the stage to there, but you can hear what people are saying in the audience as well, which is fabulous. And if anyone does happen to shout out, you always hear what they say, and you can answer them. Yeah, most of the time.
Okay, so the next question, stage fright.
Right.
What's been the toughest moment of your career?
The toughest moment of my career? There are a few that I probably couldn't mention. I once jumped off a tightrope in a production of Tom Thumb at Hornchurch. And I was walking a tightrope, which was basically part of a spider's web. And I had to walk up this tightrope to the other side and rescue my mate, Mortimer the mouse. It's too long to go into now. But I can remember coming off this tightrope, and the best thing, if you're going to fall, the best thing to do is to jump off. And I did jump off, and I've landed on a trap door. Now, this trap door opened downwards. So it opened downwards like this. But it was only secured by two 2x1 bits of wood, which they slotted in. Well, I went straight through. So I went straight through the stage and just disappeared underneath.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I landed okay. There was nothing under it, but I landed okay. But
that sounds like a health and safety nightmare.
What was awful was I thought, I can't actually get back on stage now, because I'd never been under stage, so I don't actually know how to get back onto the stage. And it was that absolute, because the drummer was rolling his drums because I was meant to be climbing this tightrope. The organist was trembling like that. I thought he's only got 8 notes to go now to the end of his keyboard, and it went that way. And so that was an awful moment, because I just felt. Adrenaline was running because I was on a tightrope and I've just suddenly stopped. That was an awful moment. But I suppose the most embarrassing moment was in Belfast, the Opera House, Grand Opera House, beautiful Matcham Theatre, beautiful. And I was playing Aladdin with the Crankies, fabulous. I mean, they are funny people. And because Jimmy Krankie and this was 35 years ago, the Crankies, they never did the song sheet. So myself and my partner, a guy called Bill Bellamy at the time, we were Chinese policemen, did the song sheet. And this kid was on the end, and he had a scar on his nose. I thought, I'll save him to the end. This will be good. So we got to the end, and I went, oh, packed house it was, packed, right? Packed opera house, 1,500 people. I went, hello. He went, hello. I said, oh, got a scar on your nose. How did you do that? Thinking that he'd fallen off his bike or something like that. He was a tearaway anyway. Yeah. And then he just held the microphone like that and went, it's a cancer. Well, There was, absolute silence. Ian Krankie in the wings, you could just hear him going, oh, no. I don't remember to this day how we got out of it. I just don't remember how we got out of it, but we did get out of it. But I can remember thinking, oh, that's the last time. You've really got to think about questions you ask. Yeah. You really have. But I thought that was an innocent question, and I thought he'd fallen off his bike, but he hadn't.
I guess it's nights like that you learn your craft.
Yeah. It wasn't life-threatening.
Okay, so the next question. Centre stage.
Centre stage, yes. Where I like to be.
Exactly. What has been the moment in your career that you feel defines you as an artist?
Oh, wow. There have been so many brilliant things that I've gone through in my career. I don't know, because I sort of skirt between circus, variety, pantomime, grand opera. There's been so many different things. I played Puck for the Fenice in Venice, which is one of the biggest opera houses in the world, which I loved every single night of that. Every single night. It was just wonderful. It really was. I present a thing for Theatre Makes a Difference in London, an AIDS charity, called the West End Eurovision every year, where I present this Eurovision Song Contest of West End shows, and their evenings I savour every year, and I think this can't be better. And every year is a fantastic charitable evening, and I have a whale of a time. There are so many things I do regularly that not so much define me, but I just come off thinking, well, if I retire now, I'll be a happy man. And I suppose opening night of the panto every year sort of defines me in that I can. it's the end of 2.5, 3 weeks of very, very hard work, and we've got it on. We've got a massive technical musical pantomime on, and we seem to do it every year, and that's it's a big breathe out, and that sort of, I suppose the opening night of panto always defines me, because it's the end of performing, writing, directing, and getting a huge show on with, and working with a fabulous team of people, which is why I keep coming back. It's such fun, and I suppose it's what I'm most comfortable at. I suppose yeah, running on, changing into 13 frocks defines me.
And what a way to be defined.
What a way to be defined.
Okay, so the final question.
Yes.
The next stage.
The next stage.
What does the future hold for Richard Gauntlett?
What does the future hold? I'm working on a couple of projects at the moment that one of them could be massive. One of them would be very satisfying. I've just got to complete them, and I can't really say what they are at the moment. But I don't know. We are talking about next year's panto, which is exciting. It always is exciting. It always is, and the problems it will bring up, and what we do with it. But I take each year as it comes. Really, I've got enough work next year, so I'm all right. And I've got 2 little boys at the moment, 2 little 5-year-old boys, and a new dog. So
it's busy.
It's very busy at home at the moment, and so I'm really enjoying family life at the moment. So and I've got enough work. So I suppose I'll keep plodding on. But there are a couple of things next year that, if they come to fruition, will be very, very exciting. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, but I can't actually tell you. I'm really sorry. But
we'll find out, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes. Well, once it gets out, get in this place, like that, it'll be everywhere.
So that's the end of those questions. How did you find them?
Yeah, they're nice. They're very good questions. They're very good questions. Yeah. Very thought-provoking. Yeah. You could ask me again in half an hour's time. They'd be completely different, the answers.
Usually when we do interviews with you, it's a bit sillier, so it's nice to learn a little bit more about you as well.
That's nice. Thank you.
So that's the end of those questions. If people haven't already booked their tickets for Cinderella, what can they expect this year?
Well, why haven't you? You won't get the seats you want. You know that, don't you? And what can they expect this year? It's Cinderella. It's I suppose it's the most famous and iconic pantomime. They'll expect a magical evening. There are a couple of twists in it, but then Norwich Panto wouldn't be the same without a couple of twists. But we've got a fantastic cast this year. We really, really have got a fantastic cast. And, I shall be having meetings today about certain effects that will happen on this very stage. And it should be fun, wet, messy, bright, and sparkly. That's what to expect. Okay.
Richard, thanks very much.
Pleasure.